All right. How's it going, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I am feeling pretty good today. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our guests, lovely people. Lauren, Amy, it's great to see you. Irfan, Puya, and more are coming. Um, Mike, I'm happy you could join me today. We've done a few of these Intaker webinars, but never one quite like this. So, how you feeling, buddy?
Hey, I'm feeling fantastic. I appreciate the opportunity, as always, to hop on. I think there's going to be some great value delivered today. And once again, just appreciative of the opportunity.
Yes. Well, I think we're going to get started. So, what we're going to talk about today, I'm Joe. This is Mike, the closing room. I'm going to introduce him for real in 1 second. But today we're just going to talk about how you can convert and retain more clients from your appointments without spending anything extra on your firm's marketing. And so if you have not been to an Intaker webinar before, we do these, they're kind of short form. They could be, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We have time for questions at the end. And Mike is going to bring us into a new topic today that we haven't really talked about. But first, we're going to do some really quick housekeeping. And so you're going to see a few buttons on your screen, right? There's the chat where we can talk, say what's up to each other, communicate amongst yourselves. You can raise your hand if you want to come on stage at the end and ask a question. And you can also drop that question into the Q&A box just by clicking that option. And that way we'll be able to see that. And whether you come up or stay in your seat, we can do it like that. Okay, so today I'm joined by a really special guest. Maybe you know him. His name, well, before I get to that, he's an expert sales trainer. He's helped dozens, if not more than that, of law firms dramatically increase their earnings in the consultation room. He's the founder and the CEO of The Closing Room, and he is Michael Strauch. So how you doing today, Mike?
Joe, I'm fantastic. What a kind introduction. I appreciate that. How about yourself? How you feeling? You ready?
Yeah, I think so. I know we've been doing this, we've been planning this for a little while. So, oh, by the way, I love your suit in your profile picture, man. That is a
Thank
good
you.
one. It's a good pattern. And so
Shout out to Sam Surin there.
Sam Sarin. Yeah, if you don't know, now you know. Check out his suits. And so, Mike, I'm going to hand it off to you in just a couple of minutes. But first,
Sure.
I want to, tell the audience why I asked you to come here today and speak with us. And so, if you've seen me before, you probably know how strongly I feel about automation. It's something you need in your practice. I believe it can really help you unlock the door to intelligent, predictable growth in your law firm. And I know whether you're big or small, that's something that's really important. You know that to give your prospects, when they first find out about you or come to your website, a process and an experience that is painless, that is intuitive when they reach out to you, that's going to really make or break the entire experience. And that the speed of communication when they reach out is also one of the most important things, because if they're not getting the kind of speed and service that they deserve, they're going to leave. And so automation is going to help you in all of these things. But automation, using more automation is not always a cure-all, because I've seen both large and small law firms struggle to hit their targets and meet their goals even after putting the best automation in place. And so I think a big reason is this. You could use automation in your chat. You could use it in all of your processes, in your follow-ups. And yes, that's going to help you, capture, convert more leads, get more appointments. But really, automation only works as well as your team does, right? You could have the greatest system of workflows in the world to take care of all the legwork. But if your team of people cannot raise their standards and become more effective in communicating with your prospect and selling your service, then all the automation in the world will not save you. And so really, what does this mean? I mean, I've said this, and Mike, I bet you agree. The most important asset to your firm is your people. This is not news, but we sometimes have to go back to the basics and dig a little bit deeper. And so I know, as you, whether you're a business owner or whether you are a leader in your law firm, you're going to have no choice but to delegate more responsibility to those other people on your team. And this includes the responsibility of selling your service in the consultation room. But too many firm owners are going to leave it up to their team to figure out for themselves how to make the best of getting better results and closing more opportunities. But this is where you get to come in as a leader and really help your team shift their thinking, transform their their approach, and adjust their styles of communication to really help your prospects be guided through that decision-making process and really close more deals like a true sales professional. And so I don't know anyone more qualified to talk to you today than Michael on this topic. And so I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to you. Mike, you ready?
I'm set. I appreciate it, Joe, and I couldn't agree more. You know, your people are absolutely your most important asset. And now we're going to take what Joe just said about being able to generate leads, right? And now we have to figure out, how do we convert them, right? We have to be able to convert them in the consult room. So today, I'd like to teach how checklist selling can generate you $158,744 in only 6 weeks. Now, I know that's oddly specific, and that comes from a case study of a client of ours, but it is a true example. And in the next 30 to 45 minutes or so, what I would like to cover is a few key things that you're going to take out of today's training. Number one, how to generate clients on demand while removing yourself from the consult room, regardless of if that seems ridiculous or not. I want to also teach you how to attract the exact clients you want, but more importantly, how to command a premium price for your service while doing it. And then I'd like to lastly touch on how to leverage your time and doing all of that without giving up your time to fulfill work, get home for dinner in time, and feel overwhelmed. See, what I often find is that law firm owners that haven't yet made we'll talk about today, the shifts in our training, they often experience some of the same issues or problems. Like, for instance, does struggling to meet payroll because you don't have consistent cases coming into the practice, is that an issue you can relate to? Or not being able to sleep at night, knowing that you have to wake up, perform, close cases while trying to balance the operation of your entire law firm? Does that hit home? Or even in some cases worse, secretly knowing you're worth more than you're currently charging, but you're nervous or afraid to increase your rates because you don't think anyone will pay for them, right? Or even a little bit more personal, on a personal level, getting frustrated by the fact that you just can't ever seem to make it home in time for dinner just because there's not ever enough hours in the day to get to where you'd like to be, right? If those seem like, you know, problems that you experience personally, you're not alone in that. But what I'm here to tell you is that, believe it or not, those are symptoms of a bigger problem. Okay, you're probably wondering, what is that bigger problem? And Joe, if you'll go next there, we'll touch on what that bigger problem is. And that bigger problem is that you haven't yet made the 5 shifts. You haven't yet made the 5 shifts in your law firm. See, when you are able to make these 5 shifts, you can actually get to the other side. So when you make the shifts, you'll have complete control and generate the exact clients that you want to work with on demand. You're going to have a law firm that you'll finally make the income you want to make and regain your freedom while doing it. And you'll command premium prices for the services that you provide and generate more revenue, the revenue that you're worth. But most importantly, and I say most importantly, you'll be able to do all of this while tapping back into the excitement you first had when you were starting your law firm. Joe, I don't know about you, but I think that sounds pretty exciting. What do you think?
I am ready to learn more, man. I'm not even a lawyer, but tell me.
Awesome. Let's move into shift 1. So shift 1 is implement a closed loop system. So shift 1 is really a mindset shift more than anything. See, what I often find is that attorneys, when they are in the consult room, and granted, I completely understand where you're coming from with this, but they like the creative aspect of the consult room. They like to really work through and customize each consultation to each prospect because they like the creative challenge to overcome the problem that their prospect is experiencing. But see, this is actually a critical error in the consultation process. What we need to shift is we need to shift our mindset to a closed loop system. And what I mean by that is a black box that we pass every consultation through every single time, having a system that we follow every single time we're in the consultation room. Now, for us at the closing room, we've got our 19 steps. And it's funny because what I often hear from attorneys when they hear that they now have to, or they're making the choice to implement a closed loop system, is that it's boring now, right? The consult becomes boring. But what I'm here to say is, to be frank, the consult, whether or not you like a closed loop system, if you think it's boring, is supposed to be boring. Why? Because it's supposed to generate you consistent and predictable results. We're not supposed to create a creative system to overcome each prospect's unique challenge, because here's what ends up happening with that. See, all of the other sales trainers that I've ever heard in the attorney niche and even outside abroad all preach to build a new consultation for each new prospect that comes in the door. And indirectly by doing that, what they're doing is they're basically saying, try to close 100% of the deals that walk through your door. Here's the problem with that. When you try to close 100%, some weeks you might close 80%. Other weeks you might only close 20%. And the problem is there's no consistency to that. Worse over, there's no dependability. And if you don't have dependability in your consult room, it's going to be hard to ever truly achieve freedom from your law firm. So what we are practically saying is, no, we should flip that concept on its head. We should have one system that we pass everyone through to consistently close, and it varies per practice area, but consistently close between 65 and 75% of the prospects that walk through the door, and that will create dependability. So that's why it's important to implement a closed loop system. And Joe, if you'll go ahead and shift, we'll move into shift 2, which is, okay, we are creating a closed loop system. That's the mindset. Let's talk about some practical implementation. Shift 2, command premium pricing, is upwards of one of the more important shifts that you're going to make of the 5 shifts. See, it's sad because what I often see is when I get into a law firm, they join the program, most of them are undercharging for their service. Now, listen, I know there's trustees, I know there's the bar association, and I know in some cases they actually put physical caps on what you can charge, but that is not always the case. I believe that a lot of the time we get a little bit concerned about what they'll say if we raise the rates. And I understand that. I'm of the mindset it's better to beg for forgiveness than to ask for permission. But let's address this a little bit more. See, there's only 2 real reasons that you aren't currently charging premium prices for your services. Either 1, you believe your expertise is not worth it, and or 2, you think it is worth it, but you believe if you end up charging more, no one will pay for it. But what I would like to address is I'd like to address problem 1, which is you don't believe your expertise is worth it. Now, here's a very important point I would like to make when it comes to pricing. See, as a prospect and as a then law firm, you are not selling your time. You are not selling your knowledge. You are not selling either of those 2 things. In fact, what you are selling is you are selling the value of the result that you deliver. See, that's ultimately what your clients want. See, your prospects, they came into the door with a problem that's bogging them down, a problem that they want solved. And they are willing to pay the best of the best to solve their problem. See, they're not concerned necessarily with what happens from A to B. We should be providing a fantastic service from A to B. But what they are concerned about is what B is. They want B to be the solution. They want that to be their heaven, their goal, right? What they want to accomplish. And that's what they're willing to pay for. They're willing to pay for that feeling of when they get to be. And see, what high prices do, commanding premium prices, they actually reassure your client that you are the best of the best at what you do. See, by going through high prices, you are establishing what you do and that you are the best at what you do. So for a hypothetical situation here, let's just say you've got an important heart surgery, right? Now you've got this gentleman doctor down in Mexico, and it's going to be really cheap to get this surgery done, right? Or you've got the best cardiologist in the country, but it's going to be uber expensive. But you've got a real problem. You've got a problem with your heart that if you do not get solved, let's just say the worst consequence here is death. Which route are you going to take? Are you going to go with the cheap solution, or are you going to go with the best cardiologist in the country? I'm willing to bet that you're going to go with the best cardiologist in the country. But what made you determine and establish, outside of being told that he's the best cardiologist in the country? It's that he was charging premium prices. There is a direct correlation in value based off of cheap and premium, right? And when you pay for premium, you're paying for that premium result. You're paying for that premium service. So what it is important to establish is that people are willing to pay more for your service, and they are actually more likely to stick and become a better client because you are the best at what you do. And I know this might sound crazy, but people actually feel good that they're buying the best because they feel like they're going to get the solution that they need, that they want when they walked into your doors. So that's a very important shift to make. And Joe, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and shift over to shift 3. Now, we talked about implementing a closed loop system. We talked about commanding a premium price. Now let's talk about the secret weapon, right? The secret weapon. How do we practically do this? How do we practically implement this? Checklist selling. Now, checklist selling is the most powerful way to implement, one, a repeatable structure, generate clients on demand, charge premium prices for your services, and most importantly, gain market share while doing it. See, the important distinction is all of that can be done whether it's you and or someone else in the consult room, meaning either another attorney, a paralegal, or a non-attorney salesperson. See, checklist selling is the practical implementation of that closed loop system, of that repeatable sales system. In our world at the closing room, we follow our 19-step structure, but what checklist selling basically is, in its boiled down form, is it's step-by-step selling. It's checkbox by checkbox, following a checklist to sell. And what does that mean? If you're following a checklist, that means you are then following a closed loop system. And when you boil down what that checklist really needs to look like, what that structure really needs to look like, it comes down to a few different components. One, as a whole, this structure should build a connection with your prospect. You should be providing value through the process. And most importantly, this structure should build in a way to invite them to take the next step with your firm. And there's some basic building blocks of the structure that you need. Again, we follow the 19 steps, and we have each of these boiled down into steps and sub-steps of each of these next building blocks that I'd like to share with you. But you need these core 5 building blocks when you're building this structure. Number 1, you need to be able to set expectations for your consultation, right? You need to set expectations. You then need to learn about the prospect and give them an outlet to share their story. See, when they come into your office for a consultation, they likely have this story that's been sitting on their chest, sitting in their head, that in some cases they probably haven't had the ability to share with anyone else because it's private, right? They're having and experiencing a problem and they're coming to you for a solution, but they just want an outlet to share their story. And we need to be that sounding board to be able to be there, listen to it, and demonstrate an understanding. We need to give them a way to discuss their options and how our firm works. That's the next building block. You have to have a way to discuss options, give them the ability to pick an option for moving forward and demonstrating how our firm works. You need to provide peace of mind, knowing that your firm is the best solution for them. Give them peace of mind that you will be able to solve their problem. Give them satisfaction guarantees that you'll be able to solve their problem. And then lastly, the most important building block of all of these, if this building block isn't in your structure, almost all of those are meaningless, which is you need to invite them to take the next step with your firm. You need to motivate action, right? It's one thing for them to come into your consult room, have you go through, listen to their story, discuss options, but all of that's meaningless to you if you're not willing to invite them to take the next step with your firm, to take action there in the consultation room. And those are your core building blocks when it comes down to building in your structure. See, checklist selling is your secret weapon on a practical scale to implementing a closed loop system, having your checklist step by step by step, having that structure in place to be able to take a prospect, run them through that structure, and consistently close at a rate. Joe, we talked about checklist selling, which is vital. We're going to go ahead and shift into shift 4, which is now an expansion of, okay, we've discussed the importance of a closed loop system. We've gone through why it's so important and vital for you to charge premium prices. We've discussed the secret weapon being checklist selling, which is the practical implementation. Step 4, shift 4, excuse me, is leverage your time, right? Leverage your time. Now, why is this so important? Well, by leveraging your time, this is the next shift that will allow you to disconnect your time from gross sales. See, as an attorney, you are the best at what you do. And what you do is practice law. You are the best at practicing law. So why not focus solely on doing that? Why not focus on honing in on doing what you love to do and what you're best at doing? See, most of the firms that I work with, they have found ways to scale their time while generating the same, if not better results than they personally had in the consultation room. See, when you leverage your time, what this looks like on a practical implementation is being able to take either an attorney or a non-attorney salesperson and have them run consultations. But there's an important distinction here. See, if you don't have a closed loop system and you don't have a structure, and this is where most attorneys run into a roadblock with this. If you don't have those things, it's very difficult to replace yourself in the consultation room because now there is no structure for someone else to follow. You basically have to translate all the knowledge that was from your mind into this next person. And in most cases, that's just not going to happen. But see, this is where the power of the closed loop system and checklist selling comes into play, because if you have a system and a structure in place, it doesn't matter anymore whether it's you in the consult room. You can take an attorney or a non-attorney salesperson, plug them in, have them follow the system and generate results, have them close deals in the consultation room because they've got a system that they can be plugged into, that they can follow. See, what I can tell you for a fact is that you don't have to hire an attorney or a non-attorney salesperson to run consultations, but it is by far the fastest way to leverage yourself and leverage your time, so that way you can take yourself out of the consultation room, which probably chews up a bunch of your time in the day, because if you're not running consultations, that means there's no new business coming in, right? But the problem is that's where the feast and famine mindset comes into play, especially for the smaller law firms out there. See, what you end up doing is you go through a stretch where you have tons of consultations and you turn some of those into hires. But now here's the problem. Since you're not leveraging your time, you have all of these new clients, and now you have to go into famine mode. And what I mean by that is now you have to fulfill all of that work, right? The problem is because you don't have a system and anyone else to run consultations, you're now in famine mode because you're now fulfilling all of the work and no longer having new consultations through the door because you don't have the time to do them, right? So by leveraging your time, replacing yourself in the consult room, you can actually now have a consistent stream of clients that walk through your door, and you can focus in on being the best at what you do, which is practicing law and honing in on being the best at that, continuing to improve your skills and providing your clients the highest level of service possible. Now, Joe, if you don't mind, we're going to go ahead and shift into our final shift here, which is invest in training. Okay, so we went through the 4 shifts. Now we've arrived at shift 5, and you're probably wondering, okay, tell me how this, why invest in training? Okay, so number 1, what I will tell you is that every firm, regardless of whether it's the closing room, internal, should have consistent sales training. That should be a non-negotiable. Every law firm should have consistent sales training. And training brings about 2 key things. Number 1, a repeatable structure. Hopefully, if you've got a good trainer, it'll be a repeatable structure. And number 2, accountability. Now, I guarantee you, for you making time for this training today, there's new ideas that are probably roaming through your head. And see, those ideas would have never been there unless you had made time for this training today. And what you really have to boil down to is, how happy are you in your law firm? See, if you're happy, good. But if you're not happy, you need a new mindset, you need a new plan, and you need accountability. Ultimately, what does that boil down to? You need training, right? What I'm going to say is, think about this. As an attorney, you went to college for what, about 7 to 8 years, right? To learn how to become the best of the best at what you do in your practice area, become the best of the best in that. You were in training, right? School was training you for that. And what I will tell you is, trying to implement these 5 shifts, a repeatable structure, commanding premium prices, checklist selling, and leveraging your time without training is actually quite literally ludicrous. I'm not saying you can't do it, but trying to implement all of them successfully and correctly is ludicrous. And I know I've invested plenty of money in training, and each time it was a big decision, right? It's not an easy decision to just say, yeah, I need to get training on this. But what I can say is, each time that investment yielded itself within the first month. What I'm ultimately trying to convey here is, you learned a lot of information today. These 5 shifts, they will make an impact. They will allow you to see that heaven that we talked about, right? They will allow you to tap back in to that excitement in your firm, and they will allow you to streamline your consultation process. But don't go at it alone. Really make sure you find the best trainer out there and invest what it takes to work with them. Again, whether that's me, whether that's internally, it doesn't matter, but don't go at it alone. I think there's one more important distinction I want to make there. I just recently had a firm join our program, and they were actually working with a trainer previous to the closing room. And when they came to us, they basically said, hey, listen, we're working with a trainer, but we're only closing at 40%. And I knew for a fact, they were a bankruptcy firm. I knew for a fact that bankruptcy firms should consistently be closing between 65 and 75%. But see, that sales trainer was teaching them to build new customized consultations each time. And they made the transition over to us. And within 30 days, they jumped up and were closing at 69.09%. The reason I tell you this is because you do have to be selective of who you're selecting for a sales trainer. There are sales trainers that do it wrong, that will not help you maximize results, that do not believe in a closed loop system, that do not believe in checklist selling. And I'm here to tell you that in our humble and point of view, that's wrong. That is not the correct way sales training should be done. There's a proven system and structure to do it, and that's what needs to be followed. So with that being said, Joe, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and shift into kind of this next portion here, which is, today we covered a lot of information. We covered how to generate clients on demand while making sure you can remove yourself from the console room, leveraging your time, how to command a premium price for your service, and why you should stop losing profitability and undercharging, making sure and teaching how to leverage your time, and then most importantly, how to do all of this without giving up your time to fulfill work, get home for dinner, and without feeling overwhelmed. So with that being said, we could go ahead and shift, Joe. I'd say you now have a choice. You have a choice to make at this point. We could go ahead and shift, which is making the decision to say, okay, listen, I agree with you. I think these are all shifts I need to make. And if you are interested in being able to make that shift to get that proper training that you need, here's what I've done. My team and I, we've set aside some time within the next 48 hours to speak to you personally about how you can apply these same shifts, these same ideas to your business starting today. And I guarantee you, whatever your biggest challenges are, we have seen it and we definitely know how to overcome it. Now, we could go ahead and shift, Joe. In terms of the session, what that would look like in terms of a conversation, ultimately, I'd be looking to help you craft a step-by-step game plan of how you can generate clients on demand and helping you regain your freedom by leveraging your time. Now, the cost, absolutely free. You could shift, Joe. You're probably wondering who this is for, right? And what I would like to make sure is clear is that we are very selective about who joins and who has a conversation with going into our program. These are criteria for people that we have a distinction of when we look at would we be a good fit for the program. You one must be a smaller solo law firm owner committed to the success of your client, and being willing to command a premium price. You have to be willing to take massive action to generate results, and you must be at a place in your firm where you're excited or you're experiencing that hell, you're experiencing those problems, and you're ready for a change. If that's you, you can book a session now. But you're probably asking, we could go ahead and shift, Joe. Why are we doing this, right? The cost is absolutely free. Why? And what I would like to make sure is clear is, one, if you couldn't tell by this training today, I'm passionate. I get fired up about this stuff, right? I love sales. I love the consultation room. Most importantly, I love being able to help law firm owners out of their current position and helping you achieve freedom in your firm, increasing your hire rate. And listen, I understand that after hearing these 5 shifts today, you may want to transform your sales, right? You may want to transform your process. And if so, I want to be able to discuss that with you and determine if it's a good fit for us to work together. And if not, no hard feelings whatsoever, but that's why I'm doing this. So that being said, Joe, we can shift. And I just want to, one, thank Joe, but two, if you would like to book a conversation, again, we set aside time within the next 48 hours. You can go to theclosingroom.com/discovery. There's some QR codes on there for intaker as well. We are very limited on spaces, so make sure to go ahead and snag and grab a spot if you would like to chat. Otherwise, Joe, I really appreciate you having me on today. I hope this has been valuable for everyone.
I learned a lot. And I said before, I'm not an attorney, but this really helps me understand more of what's going on behind the scenes. I help them with automation and stuff, but there's the human element that's always, I'm a little bit further removed from. So if you are in the crowd, and especially if you have a question, put it in the box. But if this is something where you say, hey, maybe I've made the jump and I've already hired someone to do my consultations, or you have someone who's, splitting the work with you of those. And it's like, I don't know, maybe, they started up strong and then they kind of hit a road bump and now it's hard to get them back on track. I mean, Mike, probably better than I do, if they're really like a very specific, scale or size, or say like, hey, it's me and I have one other person helping me do consults, is that person like the right fit for something like this, or do they need to be a bit bigger? Like, I know you said it before, but remind me again, just who is this really for?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Really, it is for small, medium, and solo law firm owners. It doesn't matter whether the attorney is in the consult room, whether that attorney is the owner or not, an attorney, a non-attorney salesperson, or maybe you're looking to make the shift, right? You're an attorney that's in the consult room, but you want to make the shift out and replace yourself with a non-attorney salesperson. There's no better time than the present to be able to implement a system to be able to successfully make that transition.
All right. Well, maybe if it's the holidays, and I know it is, maybe it's time that we treat ourselves to a call with you, Mike. I don't know, man. I could probably use a call too. I could get some new ideas. I think checklist selling might be for more than just legal. So,
Yes.
you know, if you guys haven't, if you've not yet seen an Intaker demo, and if you want to scan that code, and you know, you can meet with me, and we'll get to chat. You might even see me bust out some new moves, courtesy of the man himself, Mr. Michael.
I'd
Mike,
love to see it.
yeah. Any closing thoughts before we start to wrap this up?
No, once again, just appreciative for the opportunity. I know for a fact, after doing this with several law firms that these shifts, these are what I boiled down into the 5 shifts that need to happen in order to really see growth in your firm personally, but obviously in your consultation room. I'm not kidding when I say, listen, these are 5 crucial shifts, but they're not easy to do alone, especially without having the guidance or the system or the structure in place already. So as much as we all like to, feel like we're Superman sometimes, this is something you definitely want to make sure you have some guidance on. Again, that doesn't matter whether, regardless it's me or not, you're going to want guidance on this. And so I would encourage you to take that leap to start implementing the shifts, but definitely get training to do it. I can't stress that enough. And obviously I could have shared a few of our awesome clients' testimonials in here, but I wanted to make sure we were on track with time. So if you are interested and want to see some of those, I know a few clients were like being in the spotlight sometimes with some of those testimonials. So if you do want a chance to see them, you guys just let me know. I'm happy to get them over to you.
In fact, if you guys scan the code for TCR demo, it'll bring you to Michael's website. And Mike, I feel like you should at some point also do a training on how to get perfect testimonials from your clients, because if you take a look, I'm not sure if you give them a very strict format or if you just give them, hey, this is what I want you to highlight. Whatever it is, they're really effective. So click Mike's link, check out the testimonials there, because I think they speak for themselves, and it's
I appreciate
cool.
that.
So anything else, or I just want to give a really quick thank you to all of the people who joined us today. There were a lot who came in and out, but I know Amy, Katrina, Lauren, Sherry, Valeria, you guys have been here like the whole time. So I want to thank you for all of that. And if there's anything, you can email Mike, his contact info. I meant to put it on here. Mike, what's your email?
It's hello@theclosingroom.com.
Very cool. And then you could also just, easiest way probably is if you go to this link or go to his website, you can also schedule the call that he mentioned. And then if you want to reach out to me, it's Joe at intaker.me. And then that link will go to my calendar, and then we can chat. Especially if you haven't seen our product before. Big year in 2021, even bigger year coming up in 2022. And Mike, I'm looking forward to helping a lot of these people get the rocket fuel they need to take you to the next level. All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you for your time, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it. And likewise to everyone that attended today, thank you for your time and attention. Hope this was helpful. Hope this was valuable. Joe, always a pleasure. I appreciate it.
All right, Mike, we'll see you on the other side. And everyone's going to get a recording in their email of everything we talked about today. Okay?
Perfect.
Much love, everybody.